And before we start the official meeting, and I let people in, tonight, John Mortimer won the bet.
Thank you, Jim, for cooperating there.
Yeah, it looked like I was going to get it, but then because you got disconnected, John was the big winner.
And I didn't even get any text messages on, wait.
Okay, I'm gonna let the public in, and then we can start the meeting.
Okay, and if you would put the agenda up.
Yeah. And let me get the agenda. And let's share the screen. There's the agenda. Hopefully you can see it.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Adam.
Hello. Are we recording?
I believe we are recording. I think I saw Blessing's thing in the corner. I didn't hear it though.
Yes,
Blessing?
you're live streaming.
Okay, and you're recording.
Well, no, you can record because you're the host now.
Okay. Oh, okay. So
We will call to order, and Meg, if you would read the roll.
Mr. Castagnoli. I know I saw him. Mr. Cater,
Present.
Mr. Mortimer,
Present.
and Chairman Quish.
Present.
Thank
And
you.
we have Meg Green, David Solkis, and Adam joining us. Topic for discussion is the draft of the POCD to be reviewed with Adam. Adam, is it TISA?
Hexa, you split the C and the Z. It's or if you want to go with the original Polish pronunciation, it's Tencha. So, but you're not the first one to struggle with it.
Yeah.
That CZ combination just doesn't translate in English that well.
No, but well, welcome.
Thank you.
And I think if anyone has any opening statements, then we'll do that. If not, we'll hand it off to Adam to do a review.
I gotta say the cover is looking pretty good.
Good.
It is nice, yeah.
Good.
yeah, and I noticed it this evening. So this is the change we have to make. We're really only listing the former members of the POCD subcommittee and not the full board. So we should list, when we'll fix this before it goes out, the full board, and then we'll add Scott and Peggy.
Yeah, and then you have the full board, and then a heading, Plan of Conservation and Development Subcommittee members.
Okay.
Then have the members, and then have the former members, please.
Yep. Okay.
So, what we did is just as a sort of reminder, as David passed on all of your comments or consolidated them, and I have highlighted them in red in this document. I would say that, one, I really appreciated all the comments. I thought they were very helpful. We made some deletions, some insertions, some updates to some of the maps. I would say that the biggest changes, so that we don't have to go sort of all of it, sort of start on David on page 32.
Okay. 32.
And I think, yeah, it's 32 of the PDF. So one of the things that David asked me to do is go through and include some of the recommendations from the 5-year consolidated plan, which I think made it a lot of sense, especially when it came to affordable housing. So there's a new section, or there's an addition to this section there that we sort of pulled out some of the key findings from the 5-year plan. And then if you go to 34.
Just to interrupt quickly, Adam, David, if you would just give us a quick refresher on the 5-year consolidated plan, just an overview, so we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah, this was the consolidated housing plan that our board actually approved back in the fall. It was put together by the Community Development Office in conjunction with they had a housing consultant, and they actually it took them probably a good 6 months to a year to put it together.
And this was paid for by Scrod?
I don't recall if Scrog paid for this or the city paid for it. I don't remember.
Did Scrod put
but-
together the affordable housing plan? Or is this
Uh,
this is the same thing or no?
No, this is because this is specific to the city of Milford.
Okay,
Scrog
gotcha. Thank
yeah,
you.
they may have a regional one, but this one was specific to the city of Milford.
Yeah, so this is the plan that almost every community puts together in order to access block grant funding from the community development block grant program. This helps to direct that funding. So there are recommendations here that aren't really in that plan that aren't really related to the POCD. But are relevant to housing in this case. So we've sort of pulled out some of the needs that they identified. And then David, if you go to page 34, we have included an updated goal and updated some of the policies or actions to advance those goals, some of the strategies there to move that forward. I think the biggest thing here is going to be across all of your zoning is looking at some of the housing and really digging into, what is it that you want to permit and how do you want to sort of address, increasing housing demand in the community and where that goes, including, affordable housing. David, I don't know, do we want to have a conversation about the CCD3? And because that's another sort of update here that
I mean,
I
we
know there
could,
was some conversation around.
yeah, the subcommittee had actually looked at the CDD3 within the last couple of years. That was an area that had been identified as not allowing housing at the moment, but because it's adjacent to downtown and it's really sort of underutilized, it's sort of a real mixture of, industrial and commercial and underutilized and all those things. It was thought at the time that housing and Jim can jump in some form, what would probably be would be a good thing to have there. And from our meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, we sort of touched on that, and the thinking was, wow, perhaps using the MCDD, either extending the MCDD down there or taking a bulk of the things that we like about MCDD and applying it to that zone could be, just what that zone needs to spur on some development and create some housing.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing around urban planning and reimagining, former industrial or light industrial or really commercial zones is that in order for it to monetize is that you need some residential. It can't just be commercial. It just can't be light industrial. It has to be sort of a mixed use. And we've seen, good applications throughout the country and some very creative developments. And so that concept of, expanding MCDD down to maybe Stop and Shop or maybe as far as Gulf Street on New Haven Avenue might be something that or further going east, maybe all the way to Pond Point Avenue. There's already restaurants there. There's already some residential, but it could be smart for us to think about that. I agree with David on that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that this all sort of fits within the larger context of really re-examining your residential uses as they're permitted, and especially the multifamily, to bring in some more nuance and to start to regulate things a little bit more, so apples to apples are being regulated in the same way, and it's not just a sort of broad strokes multifamily regulation. So
Yeah, I think the public would have easier buy-in to mixed use. I may be wrong, but it seems to be it kind of splits up the traffic into, residential early in, laid out, to middle of the day, traffic coming in to shop or go to professional offices or something.
yeah.
And the beauty of this, the CDD3 zone is the street, Bridgeport Avenue, between Route 1 and downtown, could really be a boulevard. I mean, it's super wide. It's we could have really dense development there if the board chooses to. And we may want to look at that because the cost of having to develop some of those brownfield sites there might necessitate, something like, I don't want to use the word high rise, but for Milford, something that goes beyond, our downtown zone in terms of height and density. The roadway can handle it, and that way, we'd be able to, utilize these sites that just aren't feasible to develop, today, and under today's circumstances.
How do we define a transportation-oriented development? Is there a 1.5 mile, or is it? I mean, that's pretty close to the train station. I don't know. I would say that it can't be more than 1.2 miles, or it'd be less, I would think. How do we define that?
Yeah, I mean, typically the people talk about sort of a 1/2 mile radius around a station like that. But that is for only really one type of development. And, a lot of it depends on the kind of connections that you have, between the station and, in places like Milford, where your station is already, getting a lot of sort of like kiss and ride users, right? The people who, somebody drops somebody off on their way to work and they catch the train, where there's, those sorts of transfers. That definition can sort of stretch. So certainly something to be looking at, and, also talking about, how do you support, new development with transportation investments?
Understood.
Cool. So, David, the next, substantial change was on page 67 or 66, excuse me. Yeah, and maybe it is 67. I apologize. So one of the things that we also did is pulled in some of the findings from the Milford's energy plan. And this was a pretty, a robust document that talked about residential, commercial, industrial, and municipal activities. It had a lot of strategies for going about how to meet this, this really ambitious goal of being net carbon, to reducing overall net carbon emissions in Milford by 2050. We incorporated some of those recommendations in there. So if we go to the page 69, yeah, one more. We incorporated this goal of reduce all net carbon emissions in Milford by 2050. So brought that in. And then identified a couple of strategies that were, relevant to the POCD from that document that could be done in order to advance that goal. And then the last change that, is sort of more substantive in this that we want to talk about is on 73. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, and I'm realizing I need to update this map. I'm seeing an issue with it right now. Those dots should not be on there. So one thing that we did here is we added this mixed residential commercial area for the mall. And this was, based on a conversation that I had with David, is my understanding is that there's sort of already permissions in place for residential uses at the mall, but that they are not very effective at supporting residential there, and that some work could be done to look at ways of adjusting zoning there in order to facilitate appropriate scales of residential on that property. So we've sort of added that. We think it's a sort of different future land use condition than your other mixed use districts. It's got a sort of different character, and have included some discussion of the need to do that in the recommendations. So those are kind of the big moves in there. Obviously we've sort of called everything else out in red. So I don't know, David, if there's anything else that you wanted me to talk to about the changes here, but I'd also just like to hear from the board about any thoughts on the changes. Is there anything that I missed? Did we get it right? And then talk about next steps.
Yeah, so if any, just chime in, anybody has a thought they want to share, or a direction to go in, or anything that needs a deeper look.
I mean, it's looking pretty good to me as it is. A lot of work has been put into it. I don't have many issues that jump out at me. So.
That's good. That's good. We're on the right track. I have gone over some stuff, and I have, small like edits that we don't need to spend time on, that I'll send in, a heading here, or, a little bit of language change there. And I've not completely done a full look through, but I don't think we need to do that now. I think maybe what would be a good thing to do is for everyone to, put in whatever they want to put in time to just reread it. If they have, not really grammar, but, stylizing or issues that come up, and get that back to David and Adam, and then have those incorporated. And I think the next step is go right to the board and have a draft come in front of the board, have the board a couple weeks to look at it. And then we have an open discussion, not a public hearing, but an open discussion on the draft, and let the current sitting members have input. And at that point, we can, discuss things that their input, whether we agree to try to, do some additions, deletions, whatever the board says. And then that edited document should then go out to the public. It's still in a draft form, but then we can schedule a couple of public hearings. It would maybe that's what we discuss with the whole board. If we have maybe 2 or 3 public hearings that take certain sections. So public hearing 1 is page 1 to 47 or whatever it is. Maybe it's only 2, maybe it's only 1, but that'd be sort of a collective decision. Or we can make that decision as a board here tonight. I think we're ready, pretty close to be ready to go out to get some public engagement.
Yeah, I like that. What I would, this is just my opinion, and I'm flexible. What I was thinking was that we take care of the edits that you just discussed about, among the group, get those in, we can update the document. I would then like to do simultaneously, I'd like to release the document, have it on our website for people to start looking at and thinking about, and obviously schedule it on the agenda with our full board to look at it. And if they want to go through the things that you just discussed, they want to make suggestions or changes or whatever, but really put together and start a commitment for a schedule for having public meetings on it, because I'd really, for a bunch of reasons, like to get this approved in by July or in July. So we're just 6 months behind. But I think that's achievable, and I have to, and I'll have to chat with Adam. I've got to reacquaint myself with the statutory requirements that we have for giving notifications to different bodies and different actions, and present you with a schedule based on working backwards from that. But
Yeah, I don't mind concurrently, you're getting it to the board and to the public. It'll just be the board will have,
Right.
a one round of edit before it goes to draft 3 or whatever you want to call it, and then
Agreed. Yeah.
and then have a schedule to get some public input.
I agree.
And so that would be just like, you would just notify it as a public hearing, then people would get up and talk, and then we would accept letters and.
Yeah, we can do it a bunch of different ways. I mean, we could, well, it'll be out there. We could put it on the website. We could ask people for comment from day one and start collecting that information. At the same time, we'll schedule it for the board to look at and do what the board would like to do with it, as you had described. And then once the board makes its proposed tweaks or changes, we have that next draft that we'll put out. And at the same time, we would take whatever input may have been given to us by the public by having it on the website and letting people know that it's there, incorporate that in, and then start having actual quote unquote public hearings for this. Collect the information from those public hearings. I mean, in the years past, the 2 previous ones that we did, I'm not sure that we had more than 3 public hearings on it. And it may have even been less, might have been 2. There was we had a couple of meetings on the park downtown when there was talk of changing Wilcox Park, and people were very interested in that particular topic. But the rest of the document, people at that time were okay. Might not be the case now, but we'll find out. We'll find out what people's interests are, and if we have to have an extra meeting, we will. But I think between the board and the public, we could sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel for having a document that we can then send on to the aldermen, the council of governments, and the state.
Adam, that seem reasonable? 3, possibly around 3 for a city of 50,000 people and whatever, how many square miles we have, and.
Yep. Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have, said, despite, all of my dreams, this is not always something that really gets people's, excited. I think what you all have done is done a very good job of laying out a good foundation for all the recommendations that are here. You're pulling from other documents that have been out there. You're building off of previous work. That typically, in my experience, means that people, when they do review things, typically are on board with them. And one thing to remember is that it is very common for people to review things and be comfortable with them and then not show up to say that. People typically only show up if they have something that they have an issue with. So, I do think it's important to get it out there, as David suggested. And, we can talk a little bit about different mechanisms or ways of kind of promoting that it's out there. So people are aware that it's there. That is the most important thing. And then I do think you're right about submitting written comments. Often we'll have people who just see something that they want to, make a comment on, and we'll submit a written comment. And then don't feel a need to show up for a meeting or a hearing. And I think my experience has been, at least at this point, that virtual is by far the way to get the most people to participate in something like this, that
So
are
then
virtual
maybe that becomes a special meeting. And I think we should talk about the outreach, right? So we do have a website, we do have, the
Yep.
ability to, when we have, maybe either your message at the end of a meeting or mine to say, please check out the Plan of Conservation and Developments online, please go look at it. But that outreach and that sort of PR piece is something that, would be great to have. Any ideas?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
don't know if it's Julie Nash, does she help, or is it the mayor's office to send out, a blast, or I don't know.
It does, they don't hurt.
Yeah. But I think your instinct is right, Adam, and I think everyone on the committee has expressed a similar sentiment that the more transparent and the more inclusive we are, the better the document is, and better it is perceived in a more favorable light too.
Yeah, and I think that the right way to go about this is to, you will have the noticing requirements that you're legally required to do for the special hearing and things like that, and I can just coordinate with David a little bit more on anything else that may be needed in order to, get the word out.
Good. Anybody have any ideas on get that communication out?
Wish I did. I think it's important for sure that people feel that they are heard, that they have a voice. So it's not really a way to get it out, but I think the impulse is correct.
Okay, well,
There's a couple social media sites. We maybe contact the administrators, ask about posting it on there. Maybe some of the groups like the Historical Society, maybe get their input, how they want to, get a copy of it or something.
That's a good point. There's a couple of citizen groups.
yeah, there's Walnut Beach Association, there's the Downtown Milford Business Association, there's the Chamber of Commerce,
That's where Julie Nash will be very helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess we can, there's that group that was active with
They grew up in Milford or something like that. There's a couple of those groups.
yeah.
All in for Milford, I think, is one.
And once they find out that it's posted online, anyone can take the link from our website and link the documents to their own.
What was the group that was so active in
The ADU.
the ADUs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Something for Milford Progress or something.
Yeah.
That was all in for Milford.
All in.
Oh, yeah.
John was correct, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they would post it.
They're pretty activist.
Yeah.
Type.
Yeah.
As we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all good ideas. So let's make sure we pursue them all, when it's the time. And I think I think your instinct, Adam, is good, that it is a virtual meeting, because a lot of people that may have opinions can't show up. So maybe we make it a special meeting. I know there's a lot of energy on the board to have whatever regular meetings are in person. But so this could be a special meeting. Maybe if there is a slow first or third Tuesday, we could have it be a special meeting with just this on the agenda, or we pick a different day. And we can discuss that once we have the full board to review the draft. We can come up with a consensus on when to have a virtual meeting or a series of virtual meetings. But I think that's important. There are people that just won't come out because it's physically hard for them or, whatever.
People
a lot
have
of
busy
reasons.
lives, they don't, it's a real effort to get out there after work if,
Yeah, and just a reminder, our attendance was never higher than when the regular board meetings were done virtually,
yeah.
because it's easy for people to participate that way.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before, and it's nothing new. I think that's the way to go, but other people have different ideas, and I guess we'll work that out. But yeah, in this case, I think virtual is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's what we'll promote then, and I think we can, and I think actually this committee can decide how to move it forward. So even if we have pushback from the whole board, I think we can overrule it. So.
Yeah, you as chair can decide the meeting format.
I mean, I don't want to do that on the regular meetings because those people were elected by lots of individuals too, so.
Right.
But anywho, I think we're good. If
Yeah.
anyone else has anything they want to contribute, I'm here, but we're all here.
So everyone, do we want to talk about, well, I hate to use the word deadline, but a proposed deadline for people to get comments back so I can get them to Adam.
What's everybody, give us end of business next Thursday? Give us some time to do it and not, and enough time so we actually do read it again.
Right. So not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday.
Correct.
Okay.
A week and a day, a week
Okay.
and 2 days, whatever.
Okay. So if everyone
Is that
gets,
okay with everybody?
Well, I'm gonna have a hard time because I'm gonna be away out of I'm going to Italy for a couple of weeks, so I won't really get a lot of time unless I spend it the rest of this week. So
Well, you can get
Nice.
yours done early.
I'll try.
I think you should write a song about the POCD,
Yeah.
and that way we'll get a lot of activity on it.
Yeah, that'd be real exciting. The POCD song.
It'll turn people away.
A jam.
okay, so we'll by end of business on Thursday next week, I'll have everyone's comments and then I'll package them up Friday next. Wait a second.
Good Friday.
Well, wait. We have next week is a holiday week for us folks in the city. So hold on here. So
Be Wednesday, the 5th.
it would, yeah. So I won't be here on Thursday for Passover, and I won't be here Friday for Good Friday. So if we could do it before then, or we'd have to look at the week after to get the stuff to.
Well, let's do it for Tuesday
Okay.
or say noon
Tuesday.
Wednesday. The drop dead is noon Wednesday. Or does that
Yeah.
give you enough time?
I
I
mean,
don't think there's going to be a ton.
Yeah, a Tuesday would be better. That way,
Okay.
I can then package it up Wednesday, and if there's any questions.
And
talk about it.
there's still 2 or 3 more bites at the apple before.
Totally. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So that's okay. I just think I have a dozen things here. If anyone else has a couple, they're minor, too minor to bring up with the whole band here, but
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. So Tuesday the 4th, if everyone can get me their comments Tuesday the 4th, and I can go over them Wednesday, get them to Adam, and then he will magically have them all ready for Monday the 10th. I'm just kidding, Adam. But we would have, it would be nice to have the document ready to go, actually, because we have a meeting on the 18th. That would be our second meeting in April. And, typically we like to get packages to the board, by the end of the week before, Adam, so that'd be like the 14th. So if we're able to get something, between the 10th and the 14th, I mean, worst case scenario, if we had to send it out the 17th, we could, but it would be nice to have it.
yeah. And again, this is not all in a bow. This is just a working
right.
document. So there's stuff
But
that,
Yeah, sorry. I think that is more than reasonable to kind of get something done in that time frame, especially since you all have reviewed, the substantive changes. There's going to be one more round of revisions. David, you're going to give me
Yep.
kind of a consolidated set of revisions. The turnaround time on that shouldn't be
Okay.
very,
And then Jim, just to let you know, well, the whole board can know, I will be unable to attend the meeting on Tuesday, the 18th. I have to go, you're gonna laugh. I've got to go before my Board of Zoning Appeals here where I live in New Haven. And that's their hearing night because I need a variance.
Oh. That big addition you're building, or?
I'm putting in a new garage, so it is 5 inches too tall. So I'm hoping that they will be kind and let me build it. And I'm gonna, after listening to everybody in Milford, over the years in front of the ZBA and our own boards, it's like, oh, please.
Well, I wish you well.
Thank you.
When's our next?
We have a meeting next week.
So our next meeting here will be with the full board.
So two things. So if I think the next meeting for, and we have to, this is an interesting question. After you get your comments to me, has your job as the POCD subcommittee finished? I'm just throwing that out there because once we give it to the board, and we're gonna then set up a meeting schedule, make whatever tweaks the board has. It's sort of a full board item at that point. So that
We'll take that under advisement. I'd like to see us be able to take public input and take board comments in this group.
okay, that's fine.
It might be herding squirrels at one point. So
Sure, and that would be then.
as long as it's legit, that's the way I'd like to do it.
Sure. So for planning purposes, based on the schedule that we just discussed, the full board would be getting the document after the next tweaks are handed in. They'd be getting the document for the meeting on April 18th.
Okay.
So if they're getting the document on April 18th, we would then be waiting for people to read it and give us comments, and then the next regular board meeting would be on May 2nd. So then, if they're going to give us comments as a full board meeting, that would be the time we would probably get those initial comments. We would take those comments, depending on how you feel, what the comments are, either Adam is going to, synthesize those, we'll take those comments, add them, make whatever changes to the plan to get that final draft, assuming we're able to do it in that one board meeting. So then the question would be, after that final draft goes out, when or if, I would envision if we're going to have public hearings on this, it would be with the full board, since the full board would have to ultimately approve the document at that point anyway. So
Yeah, I think the full board will be invited to these special meetings. Let's
Yeah.
say, let's
they
use
would be, yeah, they'd be,
as an example. Let's say we have 3 public information sessions.
Yeah.
With comment, and full board will be invited. So
Yep.
it will be a scheduled meeting.
Yep.
We'll have, if it's a quorum.
they should be special meetings of the full board. They should be, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So I think that once we get to the 18th, I think like you said, we publish the draft version 1 or whatever you want to call it to the public at that point. And then after the initial exposure to the full board, I think we can go right into special meetings from there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. Anybody
Last
else?
question.
Yeah.
Have we given a thought at all when we do these public hearings? Are we going to be prepared how to deal with, because I'm expecting a lot of people are just going to be throwing things. You got to slow down the growth, too much building going on, too many condos, too many this. how do we handle that? I mean, how are we presenting this? And we're just going to tell them, we're listening to your thoughts, and then we'll go back and not listen to them. I mean, well, how is it we're going to deal with the feedback, which I'm expecting mostly to be negative?
I think that's a good question. I mean, it's not a typical, it's a special meeting. So I think if you agree, David and Adam, we can have dialogue. And so if there's questions about there's too much housing, then, maybe Adam can weigh in and say, well, our population is stagnant, but there is a average household size that was 4.3 and now it's 3.1. So it's the same amount of people, but it's just more dwellings, so there can be some back and forth where we can answer questions right away. Are we allowed to do that in a special meeting, David?
You can do that in a special meeting, but I think Adam, we're going to tap into Adam's experience and because I'm going to say he'll probably have more experience than I had with these public hearings. But in my past, when we have done these things with consultants, you listen to what the public says. You take down their ideas. You don't promise anything that night or that you're going to do anything, but you earnestly listen, and then those concerns you as a group can sort of consider. And maybe there are changes you make to the draft document.
Well, Dave, we consider, but we consider it a later date. We don't consider that evening, correct?
Oh, correct. Oh, totally.
I mean,
Okay.
we listen,
Okay,
basically
I
a
agree.
public hearing, we listen.
Exactly.
We write down we take notes.
Yep.
We listen to what the public has to say,
Yep.
and then we go back
Yep.
and we have discussions amongst ourselves. We don't want to get into any discussions or arguments or
Exactly.
go on forever that night.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Exactly.
That's a good idea, Joe. I like that.
And no, I like that, but I just want us mentally to be prepared. I think that, Joe is right how you handle it. I just want everybody to think about it, because this is probably what's going to happen. Most people who speak are the ones that are negative. I don't think you're going to get a lot of people saying this is great. The ones speaking are going to be negative. So we just got to be prepared how to handle it. And like Joe said, we just got to deal with them correctly.
And
Good idea. Good thought.
And as Adam touched on before, what you usually get at these kinds of meetings are the people who come out because they don't like something, and
Right.
they're the vocal minority, and you have the silent majority who thinks things are perfectly fine.
And
So-
it might be the case that in written comments, we get a little bit more of both, like we've seen in terms of the ADUs, for example, that there are a lot of people that supported it, that just came out in writing as opposed to in person.
Yeah, and in all fairness, people may not like things and make recommendations that you all think are good ideas and things that you want to incorporate. And to Joe's point, I think it's important to listen and then to deliberate about that sort of afterwards. We can record the meeting. That's one of the nice things. We can take some notes throughout the process and kind of put together a here are, there are going to be people who are going to show up and just, have some things to say that aren't going to be requesting anything. And we can just sort of take those notes down. And then we can put together a sort of list of decision points. Yeah.
Okay. So what do we have? Approval of the minutes? Is that what's left on the agenda, sir?
Yep. Let me put that up for you here. Yes, approval of the minutes.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their time and consideration. Adam, nice work. And we'll keep after it. We're getting closer. There is light at the end of the tunnel. A flicker, anyway.
Not an oncoming train. We're gonna be all right.
All right. Thanks all. Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night, everyone.